says express as a single fraction in its simplest form 1 minus open bracket 1 over 30 plus 4 over 15. So in this question we're going to work the brackets first, and in order to do that we're going to find the LCM. The LCM of 15 and 30 is going to be 30. So we're going to work out what goes as the numerator. So 13 to 30 goes 1. So we multiply 1 times 1, and that's going to give us 1 here, plus we're going to say 15 into 30 goes 2 times, so we're going to multiply 4 the numerator by 2, so that's going to give us 8. So the next thing we need to do is just to add our numerator, so it's going to give us 9 over 30. So what we're going to do next, we're going to subtract 9 over 30 from 1. 1 means 1 whole, so it means the whole is divided into 30. So 1 is the same thing as 30 over 30. So we're going to subtract 9 over 30 from that, and we're going to get 21 over 30. The question says we should express this in its simplest form, so we can reduce this fraction. 3 goes into 21 7 times, and into 30 10 times. So the answer is 7 over 10. Question 1b says a two-story car park has a total of 1020 parking spaces. At 0630 hours one morning, 1 out of 30 of the 1020 spaces are filled. During the next hour, no cars left the car park, but another 4 out of 15 of the 1020 spaces are filled. Determine the number of parking spaces that are not filled at 0730 hours. So if we pay careful attention to the information in this part of the question, we see 1 over 30 and 4 over 15. These were the fractions that we added in part A of the question. And when we added those would represent the number of parking spaces that were filled. The question says we should determine the number of parking spaces that are not filled. So when we subtracted the total of these fractions from one whole, and we got a final answer of 7 over 10, that's what we're going to use to calculate the number of parking spaces that were not filled at 7:30. So the parking spaces that were not filled will be calculated by the fraction 7 out of 10, and we're going to multiply that by 1020 over 1. So we can divide both by 10, so 10 into itself 1, and into 1020 102 times. And to calculate our final answer, we just need to multiply 7 times 102, and that will give us 714. We're looking at question 1c. It says of the 1020 parking spaces, 20% are on the top level. How many parking spaces are on the top level? In order to do this, we're going to find 20% of the total number of parking spaces, which is going to be 20 over 100 multiplied by 1020 over 1. We can divide by 10, so 10 into 100 goes 10 times, into 20 goes 2 times. 10 into itself goes 1, and into 1020 102 times. 2 times 102 gives us 204. So there are 204 parking spaces on the top level. D says some of the parking spaces are reserved for monthly paying customers. The ratio of reserved spaces to non-reserved spaces is 5 to 7. Calculate the number of non-reserved parking spaces. The ratio of 5 to 7 means that 5 parts would be for reserved spaces and 7 parts would represent the number of non-reserved spaces. In order to do our calculation, we need to find the total number of proportional parts. That would be adding 5 and 7. That would give us 12 parts. In order to calculate the number of non-reserved parking spaces, we're going to use the part of the ratio that says 7, and we're going to express that out of 12. So 7 out of 12, or 7 over 12, multiplied by the total number of spaces, which is 1020. Giving this a denominator of 1, and then we're going to reduce our fractions. So 12 into itself goes 1, into 1020 goes 85 times. So we're going to multiply 7 times 85, and that's going to give us 595. Therefore, there are 595 non-reserved parking spaces. 1E says that the cost of parking at the car park is shown in the table below. EI says Michaela leaves the car park at 18:30 hours and pays $9.25. Determine the earliest time she could have arrived at the park. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the table to see what applies to this cost. So if Michaela paid $9.25, then it means that she could have spent a maximum time of 8 hours. Since Michaela leaves the car park at 18:30 hours, we are going to subtract 8 hours from this time to determine the earliest time she could have arrived at the car park. So we're going to write 18:30 hours first, and then we're going to subtract 8 hours from this. So we're going to subtract 8 hours from the 18:30. So it's going to be 0 from 0 leaves us with 0. 0 from 3 leaves us with 3. We're going to have 8 from 8 leaves us with 0. We're going to bring down the 1. So the earliest time she could have arrived at this car park was 10:30 hours. Question 1EII. It says Danraj bought a weekly parking ticket for $40. That week, he visited the car park 5 different times. The length of time he parked his car on each occasion is given below. Let us use the table to determine how much he would pay each day if he had not bought the 1 week ticket. So for the first day, he would be there for 25 minutes, so he would not pay any money because under 13 minutes would be free. So 0 for the first day. The second day he spent 7.5 hours, so he would fit into the third category that says 4 hours up to 8 hours. So that one would mean that he would be paying $9.25. And the third day he would be there 11 hours, and it says more than 8 hours up to 24 hours you would pay $15. So on the third day he would be paying $15. The fourth day he spent 8 hours, 8.75 hours, so that would be more than 8 and up to 24 hours, so he would also pay $15 for that. And for the last day, he spent 8 hours. So that would fall in the category that says more than 4 hours and up to 8 hours. So he would pay $9.25 for that last day. So if we add $0, $9.25, $15 and $9.25, we're going to get a grand total of $48.50. So if he bought parking daily, he would pay $48.50. But because he bought the weekly parking ticket for $40, he would have saved some money. So let's subtract 40 from this amount here, which is $48.50, and we're going to get $8.50.